It's Tom Hartman. He is among the finest content makers online. And he agrees with us. If you'll recall, not too terribly long ago, we were talking about, hey, we really ought to get these traitors out of office. The folks that wrote the 14th Amendment can't enforce it for us. We've got to be proactive about that. Well, Tom Hartman seems to agree.
How can we ban Trump and his cultists from public office? And, you know, Donald Trump conceived and led an insurrection against the United States of America. I don't think anybody could dispute that. You know, trying to stop the certification of the vote that Joe Biden won by 7 million votes and, you know, just crushed Trump in the Electoral College as well, by the way. Trying to stop that certification of that election is, by any dictionary definition, an insurrection. It's an attempt to overthrow a government or to change a government. So there is this clause in the 14th Amendment. We talked about this many times, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. It says, no person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. No person. And, you know, they tried to stop Marjorie Taylor Greene from running for re-election in Cobb County, Georgia.
Anybody watch Reno 911? If I can't do a good enough impression, or I do it all the time, so I need a sound drop of Niecy Nash going, huh? Huh? That's what I would have played right there. In fact, using the power of imagination. Imagine that during this part, I had the Niecy Nash drop.
In an oath shall have engaged in the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof.
Huh?
No person.
Boom.
And, you know, they tried to stop Marjorie Taylor Greene from running for re-election in Cobb County, Georgia. And she testified in her own defense. And over 80 times, when asked about specific instances when it appeared that she participated in an insurrection, in a rebellion, over 80 times she said, I don't remember. Excuse me. Just sneezed there.
Do it again.
And
good
there
laugh.
It goes again. And the result of that was that, you know, she got whatever. She won the case. She got to run for re-election. But down in New Mexico, there was this guy, Coy Griffin. He was the founder of a group called Cowboys for Trump. It's a far-right white supremacist group.
I just want to say I'm going to every inch of this will be delicious.
He actually was elected county commissioner in New Mexico. And but after he got arrested at the Capitol in the midst of the insurrection,
boom,
somebody sued at the county level before a county judge, and the judge said, nah, you tried to overthrow your government. You're not eligible to be a county commissioner. And he got kicked out. And so now I suggest it's time to do the same with Trump. I mean, this is, and do it in as many states as possible. Now, this is happening at a couple of levels. At the federal level, there is legislation that has been proposed by Jamie Raskin in the House, and there's a companion piece in the Senate, that says explicitly Donald Trump inspired, incited, and led an insurrection against the United States of America, and therefore is ineligible to seek re-election for president. And if Congress was to pass that law, of course, it would have to get out of the House of Representatives, which is controlled by Kevin McCarthy, who's not going to pass such a law. But if Congress was to pass such a law, it could be cited and used to, I mean, that would be it, right? Now, of course, there would be an appeal to the Supreme Court. And nobody knows exactly what would happen with the Supreme Court, given that there's 6 right-wing whack jobs on the court, at least 4 or 5 of whom are so corrupt and so corrupted by right-wing billionaires who frankly don't want democracy in America either, that, it's hard to predict the outcome. But so there's that federal effort. But the thing that I find fascinating about this is that Coy Griffin, the guy who was kicked out in New Mexico, was kicked out at the county level.
Thank you. I did you wrong, Tom.
Mexico.
All right. Thank you. County level. That means you, me, all of us. All of us. We should be on the lookout for these punks. Look in your county. See if there are anybody who was if there is anybody who was at the Capitol. Sue them. Literally, you versus them. Say the two of us cannot happily exist together without the understanding of whether or not this person violated the 14th Amendment, Section 3, made clear. I think they did. I'm going to insist that a court make a ruling here. In other words, call the refs. I seize a violation. You have standing. You can do it. So thing number 1, county level. Find the rats and get rid of them. Toss their butts out. There is civilized, reasonable, legal, boring means for doing this. That's the correct one. If it seems tedious and boring, you're on the right track. That's how things are supposed to work. County level, go get them. You are responsible for your area. Now, if you're watching this channel, odds are, you're going to do it with relish. Boy, oh boy, it'll be fun. But regardless of whether or not it's fun, it is your responsibility. So if you smell traitors filth at the county level, if your local news says, oh, by the way, this punk who holds office, they were at the insurrection, sue them, and now there's precedent. Actually, there's been precedent for over a year. There's precedent. Folks at that riot, many of them, violated the 14th Amendment according to the courts. I feel 100% of them did, but hey, that's for the court to decide. Make sure the court decides it.
Was kicked out at the county level.
Ooh.
So, if you want to go after somebody who is a member of the House of Representatives who was a Trump humper, you could do it at the county level in your local county. Typically a congressional district makes up a couple of counties, but if you knock out one county and they can't be on the ballot in that county, that's typically enough, right? And similarly, if we could get Trump banned at the state level, which again, I think would be possible in some of the swing states. I doubt you could pull it off in Georgia because of Brian Kemp and Brad Raffensperger, who are both actively right now purging from the voting rolls, mostly black people in Atlanta and in other largely majority black cities in Georgia. But
all right, fine. We got to talk just for a second. Can we just highlight that? I'll tell you, the history books are not going to hesitate to say what this was. Where were they trying to throw out votes? Where black folks voted. I think a lot of folks that talk about this are intentionally not specifying that, including me, in a lot of cases. This is just purely me speculating, but at least for my part, the idea is that we shouldn't be classifying things as like, oh, they tried to toss out Americans' votes and also black people's. No, when they tried to toss out black people's votes, they were trying to toss out the votes of Americans. That's why I generally don't specify that. But once in a while, we should remind ourselves, shit, that was racist. that was real racist, huh? I mean, I know a ton of racist stuff is done, but a lot of very blatantly racist stuff was done. But that was very blatantly racist. That was like old-fashioned racist. That was like Tammany Hall era racist. That was like, Christ. That was like cutting up and sewing together bed sheets era racist. Christ almighty. That's all. Not a brilliant. I just want to remind us all that a ton of the areas, basically all the areas where the J6 stuff culminated in eventually. The initial contesting of these things were like, well, we can't trust the vote where there were black people voting. For God's sake, it's cannot believe we got this far.
I do think that it's entirely possible that you could do this in Wisconsin and in Michigan and in Arizona, where Democrats basically control the levers of power. And if Trump was just taken off the ballot in those 3 states, it's unlikely that he could win the White House no matter how successful he is this fall, or next fall, rather. Now, the fact of the matter is, I think if Trump is the nominee, there's no chance he's going to win. I realize the polls are saying it's a dead heat. Polls a year and a half out are always meaningless. They kind of give you an indication of, what people are paying attention to, sort of. But the fact of the matter is that most voters who are actually going to determine the outcome of an election, these are the low information, so-called swing and independent voters, the people who basically are just, right now, when they're driving in their car, they're listening to music, if they're listening to anything. And when they're reading, they're reading, the advice column in the sports pages. And most of their time is not spent being politically active or paying attention to what's going on. Most of their time is spent, earning a living and taking care of their kids. And, you can't blame them, right? It's a lot to do besides just pay attention to politics. So, excuse me. So, I'm not too hysterical about this, but I do think it's a serious and legitimate threat. But even more importantly, by kicking out Donald Trump or preventing him from being on the ballot in a few places anyway, we need one to start the process, right? We might also be able to do the same thing for the other people who participated with him in that. And, that includes in the Senate, Tommy Tuberville, Rick Scott, Roger Marshall, John Kennedy, Cindy Hyde-Smith, Josh Hawley, and Ted Cruz.
Boom.
And I think it's possible you could say Chuck Grassley. And in the House, Andy Biggs, Scott Perry, Paul Gosar, Mo Brooks.
Well, it's a good list. We'll get to it. Yes, you could say Chuck Grassley. Yes. I don't think that needs a lot. That's not much of a stretch.
Matt Gaetz, Louis Gohmert, and Lauren Boebert.
Quick reminder, Matt Gaetz seems to have engaged in child sex trafficking. Just thought I'd remind y'all that his buddy Joel Greenberg went down for that very thing. Said he was there with Matt Gaetz. There are texts between them. There are Venmo payments. But Matt Gaetz is a Republican politician, so Matt Gaetz has not been punished for it, which, in my opinion, should not change the fact that we need to have a trial wherein we figure out officially, for the record, and make the law answer for whether or not this guy paid a 17-year-old to cross state lines and engage in sexual intercourse with adults, including Matt Gaetz.
At the very least.
But this is about how he's a goddamn traitor.
You know, why not try Marjorie Taylor Greene again, too?
Yeah.
I mean, each one of these cases could be taken at a county level, at least for the members of the House of Representatives. In the Senate, it might be a little more difficult, although if you could knock out a couple of big counties, like if you knocked out Harris County and made it so that Ted Cruz could not run in Harris County, Texas.
Oh,
I realize Harris
yes.
County always votes majority Democratic, but there's still, there's 3 million voters. That's still 1 million votes for Ted Cruz. That would swing the election. Crew has written, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington has written an extensive legal brief on this that you can find at their website. And MoveOn.org has a petition that they're asking people to sign that has over 330,000 signatures already, supporting an effort in Congress to do this. So there's a lot of ways to do this. And I would suggest that, number one, go over to MoveOn.org and sign their petition. Number two, go to Crew's website, crew.org, I believe is their website. Let me just double check and get that right. No, it's Citizens.
Can I just appreciate with y'all for a moment that this is happening? Tom Hartman at the end of his segment is doing the thing. He's telling folks. Now, he didn't include links in the description, but boy howdy. Your old pal Jake looked it up and put them in the description. We'll talk about that in a moment. But Tom, ooh, go on now.
Citizensforethics.org, citizensforethics.org. Go over there and check that out. Call your federal officials and let them know your opinion. That would be your 2 senators and your member of the House of Representatives. That number is 202-224-3121. That gets you to the U.S. Capitol. Woo! And call your state Secretary of State. I called the media person for our Secretary of State here in Oregon, because Oregon is one of the states where a lawsuit has been filed to keep Donald Trump off the ballot. It's been filed in 9 states now. And, I called to encourage our Secretary of State to do this. They never called me back, but I think it's a start, and I think it's an important thing. So these are the things that we all can do, right? Take a step, speak out, try to keep not just Trump, but the whole collection of fascists. And that's what they...
Hell yes. Yes. Oh my God. Yeah, the whole collection of fascists. Yeah. And when we talk about raising the bar, this right, Chong, this is it. Simply, the majority of society is saying what we will not accept any longer. You can't be a literal traitor to the country and still get to say how the country gets run. F you, pal. Links are in the description. Now, I could not find any petition on Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington. Couldn't find it. But there is the link to the petition from Move On. There's the phone number to call. And there is, there's the phone number to call to let your federal officials know your opinion. There is just written down the suggestion to call your Secretary of State and say the exact same thing. I do not want traitors to the country in positions of power. It's crazy that I have to say this, my Secretary of State, but I expect you to take steps to get rid of them. We have the 14th Amendment, Section 3, for this very purpose. For this exact reason. In fact, there were Confederate flags at that event. It was those folks that the 14th Amendment, Section 3, was written for. I want you to act You have got money in your bank account that came in part from me, your constituent. In exchange for that, you've got a job to do. I'm telling you, go do it. That's what you tell them. Sue at the county level as well. I added in that note in all caps. Sue at the county level. Toss these bums out. That is what you can do.